This is Sherry Hayes with Mom Delights. Today we're going to go through and I'm going to make some mega apple crisp. Mega because we are a family of 8 right now. Of course, there were times when we had, let's say, shall we say 17 people in our house. So I had to learn how to shave those apples fast and I had to fill those pots and pans with lots and lots of food. So what I'm doing today is I'm going to peel and core and cut these apples up and I'm going to serve them up to my family. You're going to see a lot of peeling and a lot of coring. Now, I could go ahead and take just a can of apples and put them in, I suppose, but I think that's a little more expensive. I started doing this earlier this year because the apples were so cheap where I went. I mean, they were like 68 cents a pound. And so I thought, wow, these apples are so good. I mean, but if you do lots of apples for long term, you don't have very many choices. One of them being that sorry for the blur, one of them being that you are going to either make applesauce or apple pie filling that you can, or if you have them, just enough for a little while, you can make a lot of apple crisp. Because sometimes we have the best of intentions and we buy those bags of apples and we put them in the fridge or on the counter, and people kind of go, I don't necessarily want to eat that right now. And they turn into mush, and what a waste of money and time and energy. So, if you can go ahead and find a way to incorporate those apples into something yummy that everybody loves, then you're going to be better off in the end, I think. And it's a lot of fun. It's actually a labor of love because it is kind of labor intensive to do it this way, but I still love to do it. And one of the things that I enjoy is that my knives are so sharp. We bought these new, every once in a while you get a treat as a mom, right? Well, one of my treats was getting knives that were sharp. Makes it so much faster. Now, sometimes I will remember just to cut these and then cut the core out. If you will see here, I'm going to peel this apple really quick. I started peeling apples and potatoes when I was 12. It's a good thing I had a good skill. I've had kids that were so fast at peeling, but it's always okay. So I'm cutting this in half. I'm going to cut it in each part in fourths. And then I'm just going to cut the edge and it'll automatically cut the core out of each piece. And that's kind of a fast way to do it, I think, more efficient maybe. And I'm hoping anyway. And so I throw that in there. I've got my pile of leavings, and I'm going to go ahead and continue to do this for a while. I know that you all probably have a really good recipe to put with apples. So if you want to leave an apple recipe below, that would be great. I know it's not necessarily apple season anymore, but still, we like to put some apples together every once in a while. There's still, if you talk about your fruits at the store, apples, oranges, and bananas are still some of the most price efficient fruits that you can buy, aren't they? Of course, we like to have like frozen strawberries. That's another one. I mean, if they're not in season, you can put the frozen kind in your freezer, and they're always there. Um, I'm using automatic focus. I'm using a DSLR for this recording, and I put it on autofocus because I figure that no one could hear it because the autofocus on my DSLR is really bad. It sounds so bad, and I guess it's not really that efficient. We have since upgraded to something more interesting, which I'll have to share on my social media soon. So here I am. I'm going to be cutting these apples even more. It takes a lot of apples. I think I left this in just to show you that it takes a lot of apples. I'm making here this recipe that I'm making, and I can't tell you how many apples I cut up. Maybe you can count them. But this recipe will make enough for 10 people. But right currently we only have 8 at home. But for some reason the pan I do it by the size of the baking dish that I'm using, and this baking dish will hold enough for 10 people. So I just make enough for 10 people because I know if there are leftovers, they'll be gone in a half an hour after dinner. So I'm done with this phase, and I'm going to. Oh, by the way, I was putting those apples in a solution of water and lemon. So that's a way to keep them from going brown while you're cutting all of them up since it takes such a good amount of time. Okay, so I've got some butter here. I'm going to use a cup of butter in this recipe. So before I put it in my handy dandy KitchenAid mixer, I like to cut it in smaller bits. It just makes it go faster, and I think it kind of preserves the motor rather than trying to make it, you know, trying to make it handle like a whole thing of cold butter. That's hard. So I'm going to put these in here. I'm going to use 2 cups of oats and 1 cup of flour. Yeah, my big old bag. That'll last us about a month and a half. Okay, at least in the winter time. In the summertime, not so much. We're not baking as much. So I'm going to put in 2 cups of brown sugar. I like some salt in there. Salt makes everything better. So I'm going to put this butter, kind of crumble it a little bit so that it's easier to emulsify. And I'm going to stick this attachment here. And I'm going to let my mixer go on a lower level. I've learned that if you go on a lower level and you just let it sit there, it'll eventually do it. You don't have to like put it on high every time, whatever. So I'm going to take this pan and I'm going to spray it with nonstick spray. I'm going to take my apples and I'm going to drain them. And then I will place them in the bottom here. I'm going to come back in a minute. There I am. Uh-oh. So I'm going to put these apples in here in the bottom. Spread them out evenly. See how nice and white they are. They're not brown because I put them in that lemon and water. So I'm going to pick off that little thing there and there. Okay. So I'm going to get some cinnamon, and I'm going to pour that cinnamon on here because that'll make it more tasty. I'm going to put some cinnamon into my mixture here and let that run for a little bit. Cinnamon is the thing that makes this thing pop. Apple crisp wouldn't be apple crisp without some cinnamon. I'm going to put my apple crisp topping all over it. The butter and the sugar together kind of caramelize, and then the oats and the flour, add a little bulk and crisp, and they toast, and oh, it is so wonderful when you're done. So I'm going to put this in here. I'm going to put it in my oven. I didn't preheat my oven this time, so it'll take a little longer. But what happens, it happens. Stick that in there. And I'll just leave that for a while. Uh-oh, camera, get together. So we're going to let that cook. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, all the mess. Oh, no, okay. Hey, immediately it's done. How did that happen? Oh, magic of the internet. Okay, here I am plating all of them. Don't they look delicious? They're piping hot. I don't know if you can see the steam, but they're steaming, baby. Okay, so that is going to be what I'm going to put on the table. I'm going to put some whipped topping on, and voila, we have delicious dessert. Hope you like. Please like and subscribe and click the bell. Have a great day.